welcome to Christiana's Psychic Cafe. I'm so glad you're here. We have a really interesting show for you. We have two very special guests. The first guest is pre-recorded. The second guest will be with us live. And what ties the two guests together is they're both professionals offering emotional and psychological healing in ways other than traditional psychotherapy. Now, Mary Canane, who will be our first guest, is actually a psychotherapist, and she does offer traditional psychotherapy. But you'll see that she also offers healing through radical forgiveness, ritual ceremony, games, and retreats in nature. Clearly, psychotherapy is changing, and our opportunities for healing are so much greater. So often people say to me, I'd really like to have some counseling. I'd like to have someone to talk to, but I need someone who will respect my spiritual beliefs. Well, Mary is such a person, and I think there are a lot of these kinds of practitioners out there. So she'll be our first interview. We'll play that in just a moment. In the second half of the show, we'll be welcoming live Susan Morgan from the Mystic Dream Center. Susan works with dreams in one-on-one sessions and in groups and in workshops. She's a published author on the topic of dreams. She's a certified dream teacher. So I'm really looking forward to a conversation with her as well. But let's start with our interview with Mary Canane. Let's play that video now. Mary Canane, I want to thank you so much for joining me on Christiana's Psychic Cafe. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, gosh. Well, I was just on your website just a few minutes ago before I called you, and you are doing so many really interesting things. And I know that the people who enjoy this show are really going to enjoy hearing about you and what you do. Now, I know that you are a licensed mental health worker. I know that you have a private practice in Royal Palm Beach. That's in Palm Beach County, Florida. But there is so much more that you do. And one thing I noticed on your website is you use the term transpersonal psychology. And that's a term I've heard a lot in the past couple of years and not prior to that. What is transpersonal psychology?
Well, it's having the person look at themselves and understand themselves really well and how they relate to their world, their relationships, their environment, their own goals. It's helping people to be self-reflective and also, feeling better about themselves.
And how does that differ from traditional psychotherapy?
Well, I tend not to be as behavioral. I use behavioral therapy when necessary and as a part of it. Mm-hmm. But behavioral therapy tends to be more concrete and, objective, specific goals and treatment goals and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Where I prefer to work with people to help them find their own answers by giving them feedback, helping them to see themselves in a better way and, feel more sure about themselves so they make decisions based on what's true for them rather than a behavioral type contract where you're trying to make behavior change more from the outside in, I guess you could say it that way.
Nice. I like that. So I saw, again, on your website that you can do traditional psychotherapy, but that you also offer some really interesting stuff. And I'd like to talk a little bit about radical forgiveness, if we could. What is radical forgiveness?
Well, Radical Forgiveness is a book and a program by Colin Tipping. And he trained me back in the year 2000 to facilitate workshops and do this type of spiritual therapy. So the idea behind radical forgiveness is very in line with the Course in Miracles concept that everything is happening for a spiritual purpose.
Right.
But he found that, just knowing that, understanding that concept spiritually didn't help people a whole lot.
Okay.
And many people want to forgive, but they don't really know how. And people get stuck in not wanting to let someone off the hook, or, whether someone deserves to be forgiven. They get lost in all of that type of thing. So this gives you a step-by-step process through the forgiveness process. So you start in the human part of you that is upset, angry, stuck, blaming. So you get to vent all that. You get to feel it and vent it and get it out of yourself, out of your mind, out of your body, which is a good thing. And I find in therapy people do that a lot, but if they keep seeing it the same way, they're never going to change how they feel. So this process allows you to shift your focus from blaming to seeing the spiritual big picture. And all that's required is willingness. Willingness to entertain the idea that there is a higher purpose in whatever is happening in your life. And as a soul, you actually chose to have certain experiences, either for you to awaken or for you to live on your life mission or to heal something that is stuck inside you from the past. So by starting out in that human part, we kind of trick the ego, the part that doesn't want to forgive, and allows you to get all that out. But then you have to see that, do I want to keep feeling this way? Do I want to keep holding this stuff in my body? And if not, then you can shift by being willing to see that there's a spiritual big picture and that factually something terrible or bad happened to you. But beyond that, subjectively, you've created a story around it.
Right.
So the deeper core beliefs of I'm not good enough, people always hurt me, I'll feel abandoned, I'm left out, things like that are the stories that we perpetuate over and over again. So you're really actually healing your story through this work.
When I saw that on your website, I was so impressed with that. I feel like that's a lot of what happens. A lot of what happens for me when I'm reading for clients with tarot, that's what we see. We see the story as they see it, but then we see the story from a different perspective. We can reframe the story. We can retell the story in a way that allows them to heal or to win or to be okay. So I'm thinking that's a similar process in some ways.
Right. You're reframing that as a soul, you came into this relationship or this situation for some higher purpose. But we also show people that as a human being, we don't fully get that. We probably never will.
Right.
We can attempt to see it in a different way. Right. So when we use the reframe, we say attempt a reframe. And Colin uses an analogy of a tapestry. He said, if you have a really beautiful tapestry, that's, a design or a picture, and that's the side that you see from the spiritual perspective. Once we cross over to the other side, or if our guides or God can see that side of it. Right. But when you turn the tapestry over, what are you going to see? A bunch of lines and knots and a mess.
Right.
That's what we see from the human perspective. It doesn't make any sense. We can't see it usually. We just are asking people to be willing to know that the other side does exist.
Now, back to the concept of forgiveness, why is it so important that people are able to forgive?
Well, I believe it sets people free and allows them to feel peaceful about their life instead of constantly being stirred up. It also, manifests in the body. The reason that Colin started this program was he worked with cancer patients and found that they really had issues with forgiveness quite a bit.
Interesting.
So, and being that some of them were terminal, he also wanted to give them something quick that they could do.
Right.
So this process, once you make that shift, you really can't go back to the old way of seeing or thinking about it.
Nice. Now, I noticed that you also did some ceremony around forgiveness. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful process, a 2-hour, 3-hour workshop where there's actually not much talking at all. People they don't say anything about what happened to them. Everyone stands in a circle, and I call out questions that are typical things that happen to people, from things of being lied to, having something stolen, being betrayed, abused. So each question is handled separately. And I also ask it has this happened to you, or have you done this to someone else? And if so, then you walk into the center of the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the center finds a partner, and they connect, holding hands and looking into each other's eyes. Now, nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows, are you the person that did it or had it done to you? But you look into their eyes and you see that you have the same pain.
Mm.
And you say, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Wow.
And then you complete walking across the circle. And then we break and do a little story. We use the book, Neil Donald Walsh's book, The Little Soul in the Sun, which is all about forgiveness. It's a children's book.
Mm-hmm.
And so that shows people that shift that we're looking for, and asking them if they would come back to the circle with some willingness to see that may be true, that other souls and your soul are doing this for a higher purpose. So then we repeat the same questions, and this time when they're asked, are you willing to see that there is a perfection in that story or that situation? And so even if you're not able to fully say, yes, I believe it, I forgive, you can be willing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you walk the circle again, and this time your partner greets you and says, I honor your willingness to see the perfection in the situation. And you acknowledge that for each other, and then complete walking across the circle. So it's extremely powerful because it's very anonymous too. You're not revealing any personal information, but the pain is lifted. And people walk away feeling much lighter and freer.
I can really see how that would happen. And, again, I'm seeing some similarity between the work you're doing and some of what can be accomplished in, work with tarot and things of that nature. In that, as much as I think there really is a need and a place for traditional psychotherapy, I think there are times where you can energetically remove the pain, make a shift, remove the blockage without having to examine every minutia of what happened. Do you agree?
Oh, exactly. And that's another beautiful thing about radical forgiveness is we say that it's just a story that you're healing. You tend to put your story into many situations. So you don't have to go back and visit every situation. Your story is contained in all of those.
Right.
So all you have to do is you can pick your next door neighbor you had a fight with, and that's still your story. You don't have to go back and visit, your weird uncle or things like that from your lifetime. You can just know that your story is being healed.
Right.
And that when you do heal in a radical way like that, it heals all of it.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what's powerful about that, too, is that now you're empowered in the future when something comes up to say, oh, there's my story.
Right.
Instead of getting all caught up in the drama and doing this and that, you can see your story and say, I need to continue healing this. I need to, release more of the story.
Right. Right. Now, tell me about the Heart of Mother Earth retreats.
Well, that's where I really want to focus my attention. What my joy and love is to put all my talents together. I love nature. I love cooking, which I get to do at retreats, and healing work. So I bring people out in nature or bring them to a retreat setting, like the mountains or other places, or even just a half day in a park, and use a lot of the things that I do in my workshops, little art activities, Native American spirituality, where you see the symbolism within, birds and animals that you might happen upon. And also to do healing work. Since I'm a Reiki master, my next guidance is for me to do healing work out in nature. So I intend to incorporate that. But I also do numerology, Akashic record readings. So there's, I feel like if I can just bring all my little tools to a retreat and do what we want to do if we want to do it, people have a lot of benefit from that.
Well, I noticed that you have something coming up that involves, is it kayaking?
Yeah, we usually do kayaking. I don't have one coming up right now, but have a few different places to do kayaking.
So I think therapeutic kayaking I think that's pretty cool. And I love the idea of healing in nature. I agree that is a way to heal. And I think it's right on time too, in that, there's the book out about how our children now have nature deficit disorder because people aren't connecting with the earth the way they used to. And I think that you're absolutely right, that a lot of healing can come in nature when we connect with the earth. And I think it is interesting how you're putting that all together. And so what you're saying is that in the future, you'd like to be doing even more of that kind of work.
Right. That's what I'm enjoying the most right now. I have a retreat coming up at Kashi Ashram in Sebastian, and it's a retreat, but it's really a workshop that I developed called Free to Be Me. And I've taken the idea of the butterfly metamorphosis and take people through the life cycle of the butterfly throughout the weekend. So we start with the egg stage, caterpillar, cocoon, and butterfly, and there's experiential activities all through the weekend for each of those stages.
Can you give me an example of an experiential activity?
Well, we start with, in the beginning, the egg stage, I do a meditation to connect them with their essence, and then they draw what they think their essence is, what they feel their essence is. And then we do exercises with partners about who am I, going back and forth and connecting with the body, how things feel. And then we identify in the caterpillar stage those stories that I was talking about and how life has kind of knocked you around and shaped you. And you share all this with a partner. You don't have to share it with the whole group. But I play a lot of music and I throw in little art exercises. And then we identify all the limiting beliefs that they hold. And they actually pin them on a sheet and we wrap them up in the sheet as a cocoon. And they have to get out of the cocoon. So it's a lot of experiential, just feeling yourself all wrapped up in those stories and those limiting thoughts and beliefs and to free yourself from that.
Wow, yeah.
Very powerful. And, ending with the butterfly of how are you going to continue to focus on being free and who you are and your authentic self. And so you leave with a lot of tools and commitments to yourself of how you're going to keep that going and really live from a more authentic place.
Wow. Wow. It's really exciting to hear that all of this is happening from, sort of against the backdrop and with the training and licensure of traditional psychotherapy. And so often when I speak with people who I think really would benefit from some deep therapeutic work, and they have so much resistance to that traditional psychotherapy, that's why they're sitting with me in the first place. I think that you really are doing a great service. I have people all the time saying, where can I find a therapist who isn't going to think I'm crazy because of my spiritual beliefs?
Right.
And it seems like you're that therapist.
That's right.
So your website is on the bottom of the screen. Anyone who's interested, of course, you're in Royal Palm Beach, so that's the Palm Beach County in Florida. Do you do anything over phone or Skype or anything like that?
Yes, I do that a lot. And I take insurance also, which is a benefit. I'm also including more of the Reiki healing in my private practice. And we have a monthly energy healing circle with other practitioners in the area, some of whom you know, like Sonia and Marcy.
Oh, sure.
And so we meet the first Friday of the month in my office. So I'm starting to have other things there in Royal Palm Beach that people can come to for just a love offering to check things out. We did a little mini retreat last Saturday, which was a lot of fun. Brought all my little tools to the office and did some healing sessions. I had art projects, tarot cards, like angel cards and things to play with, and sit outside by the lake behind my office. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, and I've been to your office, and it is just a wonderful location. It's got a great vibe, easy to get to, and as you mentioned, there is a lake right there. It is really beautiful. So is there anything else that you want to share with people today?
Well, I'm very interested in doing retreats, and what I've come to understand is my mission right now is to lead retreats that I can customize for people. And, for me, the challenge is marketing and getting the word out and, getting people to come to things. If I could design a retreat for a group, there's already a group and they're looking to have an experience in nature, a daytime thing, a weekend, whatever, or even couples, to give a couple a full day of attention or a weekend of attention to heal things within their relationship, or even an individual private retreat. So I would love to design something just to meet their particular needs.
Wow. I could really see that going in a lot of interesting directions. That's fabulous.
Right. So I'm finding places to do that. In Florida, the Kashi Ashram, I will be doing one there. They have a labyrinth there. They have meditation areas. They're right on a river. It's, a really beautiful location. They have a medicine wheel on the property. And I also have a place up near Gainesville in High Springs that's in the middle of the woods, and it's on the Santa Fe River. And this summer I'm going to be doing a retreat near Mount Shasta in California. A friend of mine has 4 cabins, and also have friends in Colorado. So I feel like I'm going to set up certain places around the country and maybe the world, that's my goal, to do retreats like this.
Ah, brilliant. Brilliant. I love it. I want to thank you so much for sharing this here today on the Psychic Cafe. And best of luck. Really, really exciting stuff you have going on.
I'm having fun, that's for sure.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you, Christiana. I always love talking with you.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
So that was pretty interesting. I think that a lot of people would really find some benefit from doing the kind of work that Mary's doing. And I think that we've come a long way from the time when, if you spoke about your spiritual experiences, people just thought you were crazy. So there's a lot of great opportunities for healing. And now I'd like to bring on a live guest who has a whole other way of working with emotional healing. Let's welcome Susan Morgan to Christiana's Psychic Cafe now. Hi, Susan. How are you today?
Hi, Christiana. I'm doing very good. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, gosh. Well, it is so great to have you here, and I'm really excited to share you with everyone here today. Now, your business is the Mystic Dream Center. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you do there?
Yes, well, I started it about 14 years ago. It was around the year 2000, and basically I go all over New England and even farther, teaching people how to understand and interpret their own dreams through shamanic methods, meaning we have an easy, quick way to do the everyday dreams of asking yourselves a few questions, a technique that was developed by Robert Moss, who taught me how to do this. And then for the bigger dreams, the ones that are recurring, full of emotion, the ones that you remember years later without writing them down, I have a drum, a framed drum, and I drum people into their dream to get more information. I've taught thousands of people over the last 14 years.
Wow, so this is not so much dream interpretation as it is an actual process of journeying into the dream. Is that correct?
That is correct, but through the process of going into the dream, you end up interpreting your own dream. You get an understanding of what is being sent to you every night. So it's fun, and it's very powerful.
I certainly find that I do some work with dreams just in doing tarot readings and that kind of thing. One thing thing I've noticed, and I'd just love to get your take on this. There are those books that people buy that say, well, if you dream about a refrigerator, it means this. And if you dream about a tree, it means that. Do you find that there are common symbols that people dream about that always mean the same thing?
Well, I refrain from that. I'm a very strong book advocate, but I say get rid of the dream journals. It's going to throw you off course. So without going into it too much, yes, there is a certain amount of cultural imprinting that goes on with any of us that can be recognized. But it's really a dangerous thing, as far as I'm concerned, to refer to dream journals because it's throwing you off course from your own soul. The whole purpose of a dream is a dialogue between your own soul and other things, whether it's things within yourself or things outside of yourself. So a lot of my classes, the beginning, especially with newbies, is me trying to convince them to let go of some of the cultural imprinting that they have, whether it be dream dictionaries, please don't do that, and also from a modern Western psychological approach to dreams, which is every aspect in the dream is part of me. So if there's a ladder in the dream, where am I in the ladder? If there's a ceiling in the dream, well, how am I the ceiling? And that also is incorrect and throws us off. So we've been, and this is not the case across the globe, by the way. Other cultures on the globe understand how to work with dreams and the power that comes through every night. So there's part of this, we think we're so smart over here, and in some ways we're really in the dark ages. So I have to say, let's go back to how our ancestors understood the dreams, even just 150 years ago. We've got to be deprogrammed.
Interesting. So you're saying that the process of understanding our dreams as spiritual messages is an ancient process.
It's the oldest, most sacred art there is, because as soon as we were around, we were sleeping and dreaming. And we realized early on that we're all dreaming the future. All of us. So, and the more we work with our dreams, the more, like at this point of my life, pretty much I can say almost every dream I have is of the future. And knowing what my cycle is, most of them are within a 2-week window. There's exceptions to everything, but that's usually what the bulk of my dreams are. So they're very, very dear to me. If I don't like what a dream is telling me, then I do what I can to change the circumstances in my waking life. Well, it's critical. It's a survival skill, and this is how humanity used it throughout history. Where is the food? Where is there danger? Is somebody coming at us? Is there a tsunami in the not-too-distant future? Our dreams, especially collectively, have been telling us this. This is how we got to where we are now, and still cultures operate this way, understanding. Even the Romans, right, the bastion of patriarchy, had a certain amount, they'd say about 25% of the Congress of the Romans, when they wanted to have a campaign to go conquer somebody, it was about 25% of them they could rely on as being efficient dreamers, could remember their dreams. And they would do a survey. Okay, how does it look? What are the dreams telling us? Can we go conquer? So it's been used both for good and bad. Joan of Arc did her work through dreaming next to a tree. Harriet Tubman, there's people, namely Robert Moss, that speculated it was a dreaming process that got her to lead all those slaves to freedom. She never lost one of them. So,
isn't that interesting?
This is the heritage of a human being, and we are disconnected from what happens at least a third of our life. And over time, very short amount of time, we can see that really our waking world is the dream world. The one that's not, it's more flimsy, and the dreams that come through are valid locations.
Isn't that interesting? Now, I had heard, I don't know if you'd heard this or not, but I had heard that when bin Laden was planning the attack on September 11th, he'd actually planned it for later in the year and moved it up because he was afraid people would start dreaming about it. Had you heard about that?
Well, actually, it's kind of like that, only a little different. What I've come to understand is he put much more dangerous. He put a moratorium on dream sharing about 30 days before 9/11. So when I say other cultures, I'm actually thinking of his culture as one. I had a terrorist group that contact me about a year ago, Christiana, by the way, and wanted me to do dream oracle work for them. So not everybody has our highest interest with this. This is why the good people need to remember their dreams. But yeah, he put a moratorium on it and said, but you know what? In the event, because he was afraid it was going to, the cat was going to be out of the bag. People are going to say, I don't know, I see these two things tumbling. I see two things catching on fire. He thought they're going to figure this out. So he put a moratorium and then said, but if you really need to share a dream, you come to me because I'm the expert on the dream. In a perfect world, that would have sent alarms off. Ding, 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 ding. Why are we not allowed to share dreams over in that section of the world? What are they afraid of? If we understood that we're all dreaming the future and we can see a lot more in our dream state than we're inclined to recognize, we would really be paying attention to what other people's dreams are.
Interesting. Now, it seems to me, and I've always been very interested in the process of dreaming, although obviously I don't have the background or the education or the career that you do, but it seems to me, at least in my own life and in my clients' lives, that there are different kinds of dreams, that some dreams seem prophetic, some dreams seem to be about working something out or finding a solution, some dreams seem to be a visitation, someone who has passed on or a spirit guide coming in. Can you talk a little bit about your understanding of the different types of dreams?
There are a number of different types. There are healing dreams where our body sends us images, and I've got examples of all this in my book, The Power of Dreams. I try to give one or two examples. So if we have time, I can go into one of those. There are transpersonal dreams, meaning that which is not of ourselves, things like you said from the spirit world. And I have examples of that. I had a Rumi dream many, many years ago. I had no idea who Rumi was, but I dreamed a dream of Rumi, and it changed my life. I ended up contacting this man, Sharam Shiva, who's done a number of Rumi translations, books of his translations, and it changed my life. Anyways, we have dreams of the departed. That is sometimes for people new to dream work. That's the first question I get. Do you think that my beloved so-and-so really was them that came through in the dream? And more often than not, it is them. And I guess if we weren't so busy and cluttered up, they could probably reach us easier without us going into a dream state. I'm also a medium, as I think you know. So, I mean, it's not hard to talk to them. A lot of them are very talkative. But we're just busy, so they come through in the dream state. Often on anniversaries, I suggest to people when you do have a dream of a loved one, just as an experiment, see if there's an anniversary date, birth date, death date, something going on, either for you or them, because usually there is. And we're all dreaming the future. We dream the past, especially if there's trauma or things that need to be understood, which goes to your topic tonight of emotional healing. So we may sometimes, with our own conditioning and our own sense of self-assuredness, think, well, I'm over such and such problem, a real crisis or a real challenge in my life, let's say 10 years ago. Problem is, every night I keep dreaming this, or every, few months I have a dream about that time period. So that's us, level of our being saying, no, you're not really over it. Let's work this just a little bit more so we can move on to the next thing.
Now, what about recurring dreams? What's up with that?
Recurring dreams usually are if something important needs to be understood. If our soul and our essence needs to understand something and we're just ignoring it, pushing it to the side, putting it on hold. If our soul purpose is knocking on us, saying, hello, whatever you're doing is good, but we've got another plan. Your soul purpose is another plan. It can start out gentle and nice, and if we keep ignoring it, then it ramps up often to like a nightmare or recurring dream, if nothing else, just to get our attention. These are gifts.
Now, what about lucid dreaming, the idea of setting an intention for a dream as a way of revealing information or something like that? Is that a process to work with?
Yeah. Well, those are two things. So a lucid dream is when we're in the dream state and we're aware we're dreaming. So you can be having a dream, let's say you're walking through the forest and a bear comes at you and you get scared, and all of a sudden, even though you're asleep and you're dreaming, you become aware, hey, this is a dream. I think I'll go meet that bear, or I'll run from that bear or something. That's a lucid state. That's a coveted state, because it's assumed that if you can lucid dream with any type of regularity, you have an acceleration of your consciousness. And if you're able to do that, you can do other things in your waking consciousness. That's part of the reason why it's coveted. But what you were also speaking about is dreaming with intention, and all of us can also do that by just putting an intention out before you go to sleep. I would like guidance on such and such. Whatever it is, whatever your heart really wants guidance on, whatever dream you can recall, that's your dream. That's your oracle that you've got to read yourself and understand yourself. If it's not clear, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, to go and ask again the second night. Nope, that wasn't clear enough. I want more guidance on this current question in my being. I want to talk about lucid dreaming for a second. So there used to be years ago, I forget who it was, had this technique. He'd say, well, you pinch this is like in the 60s, pinch your arm and say something to the effect of, am I awake or am I asleep? And you're supposed to do this multiple times throughout the day. And that's supposed to unlock your consciousness a little bit, to loosen it up so you can start to lucid dream. That is a long, drawn-out, make a big to-do about nothing approach. The best way and the quickest way to lucid dream, and a lot of young people want to know how to do this, is to just start remembering your dreams. It doesn't take long. This is not like a 4-year exercise, Within 30 days, you should be starting to see progress. I don't know if you'll be lucid dreaming, but things will get mighty interesting. I want to talk about probably what's the most important thing to me, if I can, Christiana, as far as dreams go. And I've been talking to people even today earlier. I had a group of 16 people, all new to dream work. If we understand our dreams and we get good at that, that's good. And you'll be good at interpreting your dreams. But nothing unusual will happen in your life. You certainly won't get to the stage of lucid dreaming. And the really good parts and the bigger dreams and the bigger gifts from dreams will not come through unless we honor our dreams. So indigenous people understood that. The dreams are, as much as anything, the language of our soul. So if all we do is understand it with an intellectual understanding and put it on a shelf, our soul says, hey, wow, what is this? What is this? And gets disgusted. So the best way to not do that to ourselves is to honor the dream. So some examples of honoring a dream might be, I don't know. Like if I have a bear dream, I have some bear, like a little bear statuary or something that I bring with me. I had a dream many years ago that I had this large top of an acorn, and it was filled with acorns. And I'm walking through the woods, handing it out to people, kind of like a fairy. And the meaning of that dream was I'm giving the seeds of dream work to a lot of people, and if they choose, they can let it grow into the strength of an oak tree. So to honor that dream, at every dream circle, I have this little carved wooden acorn that I bring with me and I set up on my altar. That's a good way to honor a dream. So I get good dreams because I know how to work it. I know they're the golden ticket, so they're dear to me. And I want everyone else to know this too. It's very much empowering. How can we move forward in life, even with our own emotional health, if our dreams are telling us something else? Or a lot of times if people say, I'm afraid to know what my dreams are, I'm afraid. Well, my God, if you're afraid, who's going to help? Who's going to help you? It's you. We've got to brave up. If we don't like what we see, we change it. Everything's malleable, pretty much.
Now, I've always been a lucid dreamer, without even trying. From the time I was a child, I'm always, or pretty much, unless alcohol is involved, I'm pretty much aware of my dream state when I'm dreaming and can work with it a little bit, which is, obviously a great thing. But I had never thought about dreaming as an oracle in the way that you present it. And that is just brilliant. In fact, the way I got into tarot was presenting itself in my dreams, even though I didn't know anything about it.
Look at that. Look at that.
Tarot images, even though I didn't own a tarot deck or didn't have familiarity with those images. Right. I had to find what the images were, and then that was tarot, and there it was. So I get that. I get that we can dream about things we have not seen before.
Absolutely.
And all of that. So here's the question. Where does that come from?
Very good question. So if you were to go to a lot of Western psychologists, they would say, well, my goodness, it comes from you, dear. And then you would say, well, in my case, I have a very interesting case because I did graduate high school, but I quit for all intents and purposes in 9th grade. I ended up going in the art room and said, the only way I'm ever going to come here again is if you let me paint pretty much all day, which is what they did. This is back in the day. So
right.
This is a blessing because now I know I didn't study all this stuff. I didn't read any of this stuff. I had a very narrow, I was reading, some advanced things. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita when I was 13, things like that. But I read what I wanted to read, and that was it. And so I know a lot of these things I did not know about. So how am I dreaming them? But a Western psychologist would explain it away. It's all aspects of yourself. Sometimes it's also explained as the great collective unconscious, as if these things are just floating in the ethers and they're just sprinkling down on you for whatever reason. It's a bunch of crap.
Right.
In my opinion. So
Agreed.
If it was my dream, I'm not going to interpret your dream because that's disempowering. Right. But literally, if I had that dream about tarot cards, and I have had them, I had my great-grandmother read tea leaves and tarot, and she came in a dream, this was years ago, and said, I want you to start reading like I read. I said, what do you mean in the dream? I'm not even necessarily, and I do read tarot myself, my own way. She said, well, you're too lazy to do a whole full spread, so why don't you just do it the way I did? Put 3 cards down, past, present, future. That's it, Susan. Don't make a project out of it. And that is often how I read the tarot. I'm thinking, you know what? She was right. That's about my level of patience right now for most, I don't have the patience for like you do for a real in-depth reading. But if I was having all those tarot images, I would say if it's my life, my dream, I must have done this in other lifetimes because I do. That's the other thing about dreams. They remind us what we already know from other lifetimes. And from at some point in time, and you may already be doing this if you're lucid dreaming, what you're even doing in other dimensions, because we're in other dimensions every night. So we can get glimpses of what we're doing while we think that we're sleeping. We're really, a lot of us, working, doing other things.
Now, what do you say to the people, and I run into these people from time to time, people who never remember their dreams? What's up with that?
What's up with that? It's not a good answer. And so I kind of I try to be the nice person and not hurt feelings, But it means usually a couple of things. So I start with the more obvious thing of if there's a trauma, I ask them, do you remember when you stopped remembering your dreams? What was the trauma? And usually, or often, they can give me an answer. Well, there was this huge thing. I had a heart attack. Something. That's good. When they say that, I'm like, phew, okay, there was a trauma. We can work through this. But really, it's a disconnection from our soul. If we knew how serious it was, we would not let it happen. So more than focusing on why we're disconnected or what the possible consequences of that are, I like to stay focused on the positive and say, even if you're disconnected from your dreams right now, we're going to work on that right now, starting tonight. So tonight, before you go to sleep, with your heart, you plead for a dream that you can remember. And then as soon as you wake up, before your feet hit the floor, you write something down. Even if you can't remember the dream and you can just remember, well, I was by myself. No, there was someone in the dream. I was happy. I was sad. Anything. That's good. And try it for like 3 or 4 nights. If you still don't get anything, this is my default, no matter what something happens plan. On the 4th night, and this probably happens 1 in maybe 2,000 people, so it really won't happen to you. But if it happens, make it up. And write down what you wished that your dream had been. Put a paragraph down. Now, see, you're going to amuse your soul and amuse yourself, if nothing else, let alone the spirits that are also paying attention to us on any given day. And they'll say, well, look at that. Isn't that funny? She's writing down what she thinks is a dream. It becomes like it's basically we want a relationship with the dream world, with our souls and with the dream world. They find me amusing. I get good dreams. Well, and they can find any of us amusing. If we're going for the gold or doing something unusual. See, you're lucid because you're doing something unusual. You're living from your heart, and you're living with a purpose that is also helpful to other people. This gets the attention, as you know, of things unseen.
Right. So since our topic is emotional healing, I'm very interested in hearing a little bit about how you work with your clients, either one-on-one or in groups, to teach them. Well, I don't even know that you teach them. What do you do? How do you do it?
All right. Well, I'll use this has been a really intense weekend for me. I worked with a lot of new people. I was in Hartford, Connecticut at a Unitarian church on Saturday, and I was in Rockport, Mass today, which is on Cape Ann, with 16 people. And I was in Cambridge Friday night. I've been on a roll. And I noticed, and it's not a full moon either, but there was a lot of intense things. And, well, some of the topics that were covered is somebody who's lost all zest and meaning for life and wakes up wishing that they were not awake. We worked on that person's dream who had a recent dream of a window. The windowsill had worms coming through it. But on the other side of the window was something beautiful. And through me asking him some questions and teaching him how to do it, mainly tell the dream simply in the present tense. Don't give us background information or anything like that. Give it a title. Tell us emotionally what was going on. Look at the past. Is there anything recent about a window, broken window? Nope. Could it be a dream of the future? And I tell people, I want you to train yourself. Every dream, I want you to say, well, this could be a dream of the future. Let me try to figure it out. Because I know the more I pay attention to them, the more I realize a lot of them really are of the future. And he was able to determine with just a few questions and also a little bit of drumming that this was a metaphor for him looking on the other side and how the grass seems greener over there in heaven. So we worked on what brings him joy and what is the reason that he chooses to be alive, at least today, or maybe this week. Who cares? So yeah, it is better over there. Who cares if you're alive? Well, a lot of people would be miserable if I crossed. Well, there's your reason for living right now. That may change a week from now. I don't know. But maybe that's enough. And it was. I mean, he sent me an email today saying it really made a difference. There was a lot of people that were emotional over the weekend. There were big things. A lot of people in crisis right now, as you probably also see with your work.
Sure.
A lot of really over-the-top crisis going on. So people are looking for ways to get through this. You can't find it in the news, and it's very hard to find it in a book for a specific crisis. This is why they need readers or need to understand their dreams. It's very custom ordered for their problem. It's not a blanket solution.
Now, what is the purpose of the drum? I mean, I'm a drummer, and I understand drumming and journeying and meditation, all of that, but drum, dream, how does that go together?
I'm glad you asked that, because as you can tell, I'm probably opinionated. And traditionally, what is a shaman? I like to talk about this. There's a few things that get my buttons going. This is one of them. So traditionally, to work shamanically meant first and foremost to work with your dreams. That is the heart of shamanism. Oh, you don't hear that in the modern Western world too much, do you? No. And that's a bone of contention with me. So that is the heart of shamanism, as well as working with the spirits, not to observe them. Oh yeah, there's dead people, but if they've got some problems, to move them along and to help assist in the crossing of our souls, and then also to do healing work when available. So with the drum, this is my oversimplification of the whole thing. I say our brain waves, you already know this, Christiana, but I'm telling this to other people. Our brain waves are like this, moving pretty much up and down. And the brain and the drum, very fast beat. It's not tuneful like, hey, hey, it's very fast. Science has figured out how many beats per minute. It doesn't matter, because like I explained, you couldn't count it. If it was like 100 beats a minute, who can do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Nope, I missed it. Let me try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anyways, it's like riding a bike. You either can do it or you can't. So it's very fast beat. I say my prayers. I've got helpers. And I'm not afraid to use them and ask them for help. And it flattens out the brain waves, the drum, that beat. And it's an entrancing tool. And we're able to go in the dream and then fish around and get information that we wouldn't think with our normal linear thinking brain. We have the two sides of our brain. And a lot of us used to working with one side. Not you and I'm singing to the choir. But for a lot of people, they're used to working with only the left side. And that's a problem because the left side is our doing side. Our solution side is the right side. Here we've got a world full of problems and people operating on the left side. No. Get the solution figured out on the right side and then do it with the left side.
Interesting.
So the drumming helps with that. It pushes us to the other side of the brain where we can creatively come up with solutions and look at things with new eyes.
Wow. So in terms of what you offer, obviously you're on the road, you're traveling, you're doing workshops, you do one-on-one stuff as well?
I do one-on-one stuff. I do that especially if there's a crisis or somebody's brand new and they've got a few bigger issues they just want to work privately. The beauty with group dream work, though, is you get the benefit of the other dreamers. And there's one group that I've got I have an office in Exeter, New Hampshire that meets every Thursday morning. And it's a small group, but these women have been, they're very efficient dreamers. And so I like to call them the little dream oracles. We're oracles for each other. We sit there, and I swear, it feels just like a tarot deck to me. I feel like we're all just different cards. It's kind of like an oracle. Someone will share the dream. We'll do the quick questions. What's the title? How do you feel? Anything recent? Could it be a dream of the future? And then we share what it would mean if it was our dream. We don't tell that person, I'm psychic and I know what your dream means. No. What would it mean if I had that dream? And somehow in the magic of the dream world, everything pretty much weaves together. We're almost without exception. Our feedback to the dreamer gives them a new way of looking at the dream. They're multiple layers. They're not simple little neat packages. They're multiple meanings. And it shows how woven we are. I often, too, with a group, I'll see a theme that will emerge. I never know what the theme is. You can watch the process. Most of the classes are about 2 hours. There will be a theme of familiar dreams amongst all the dreamers. The dreams that the dreamers will share will have a common theme. That happens a lot. It makes you wonder, what the heck is going on? Right?
Really?
It's so much fun, I can't stand it. This is why I've been doing it all these years. It's unbelievable. Then I had the added bonus, Christiana, because I have 14 pretty much regular venues I go in any month, plus other speaking engagements, let alone my readings and all that. So I have seen, not always, but I've seen, especially like last summer, I had a couple of different venues. These people did not know each other. They were states away, yet they're having similar dreams about animals in crisis on the globe.
Wow.
Animals coming through that they did not know. I mean, this is remarkable. Very remarkable.
Wow.
It expands my awareness of just what we're doing, in our dream state, what's happening. Animals are dreaming with us. The earth is dreaming. It's not just us in those ethers. There's other things, right?
Wow. So we're actually sadly coming to the end of our time together. I know how busy you are, Susan, but I really want to invite you to come back. We'll have you back if you don't mind. I'd love to have you back for a few months and spend more time talking about this, because I think we haven't even scratched the surface. And this is fascinating stuff. Really exciting. Now, people who want to know more about you can go to your website. We've got it on the ticker, but go ahead and tell us, what is your website?
MysticDreamCenter.com. And my Facebook is Mystic Dream Center or Susan Morgan. And that's pretty much it.
Perfect. And if people want to get your book, I'm actually on Amazon right now looking at it. It's called The Power of Dreams. And
yes.
I read some snippets. It looks really interesting. And one thing I love about it is that you tell the story in your personal voice.
Yeah, I do.
and this is, just a comment looking at you and your style, is that you've got this wealth of really intense spiritual knowledge, and you're able to deliver it in a way that is really relatable for people. And I see that in your book as well. So I really recommend the book, The Power of Dreams by Susan Morgan.
Thank you,
Susan. Thank you so much for being part of the show today, for coming to see us on the Psychic Cafe, and I really hope you'll come back and see us soon.
I would love to. Anytime. You just tell me what date. So thank you, Christiana.
I certainly will, Susan. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And to everyone else, I want to thank you for being here on Christiana's Psychic Cafe. Remember to check out my website, tarotbychristiana.com. We'll see you next week when we talk about finding your tarot voice. Take care. Have a great week.
Okay.